there have been some reports of women who've gone missing from BLM land that were van lifers, and it really makes you think. I am terrified of camping on BLM land. Hi, I'm Paige. Welcome back to the channel. I'm a nomad. I travel full-time in my RV with my husband and my cat. And today I'd like to talk about the reasons I'm scared to camp on BLM land. So, what's BLM land? Well, it stands for the Bureau of Land Management, and it's an agency within the United States government in the Department of the Interior, responsible for administering U.S. federal land. This is land that the government owns, so essentially all the citizens of the government kind of own. It's free land for everyone. So what's kind of neat about this is that you are allowed to do what's known as dispersed camping on it. There are some rules about dispersed camping. The biggest is that you're limited to 14 days within a 28-day period. And that's not the only rule. The limitations on various camping vary by office, and it's important to check with your local office for those limitations. In addition, campers aren't allowed to leave personal property unattended for more than 10 days. Although I guess that's up to 12 months in Alaska. It really depends on the region you're in. There's different rules, but it can be a really great value, and a lot of people swear by it. For more information on how it works, I'll link some resources in the description below. And I'll tell you, some people love camping on BLM land. It's cheap, you're close to nature. Yes, you're boondocking, which means you don't have hookups or anything like that. But, you know, as far as being in the wilderness and saving some money, it can be a really great value. And you know what? A lot of RVers, especially long-time nomads, full-time RVers, they swear by it. But I've never done it because I am terrified of camping on BLM land. I have heard so many things that scare me, frankly. It sounds wonderful in theory. But today I'd like to talk about some of the dark sides, some of the ways that it doesn't always go as planned, and frankly, some of the reasons that I'm leery of BLM camping. I've heard of so many reports, big and small, of a lot of problems with BLM land lately. The first big category is locals being aggressive. So I've been reading countless reports in the forums of people who've gone to BLM land, gotten settled in, done what they needed to do, and then lo and behold, people from the local area come up in big trucks with their lights on, honking, scaring them, you know, sometimes even with firearms, being like, this is our land, when it's really government land. The locals kind of consider this wilderness to belong to them, to the town, and even though the federal government has set it aside, they don't care. They don't want RVers there, and they're having these standoffs. So that's the first thing. The second kind of report I've been hearing a lot on the forums and elsewhere have been of kind of erratic campers. RVers who are dumping their trash, dumping their gray and their black tanks everywhere. I've heard of RVers kind of who had nice BLM spots that they liked, where they were mostly alone and they parked, and they've had other RVers kind of coming in and being like weirdly clingy and setting up right next to them, seeing that somebody has a good spot when there's plenty of BLM land, that kind of thing, and then being loud or disruptive, messy, noisy, and then it's just as bad as an RV park, if not worse, because there isn't at least some kind of rural structure, there aren't hookups, there isn't civilization nearby. So that's been another thing that I'm hearing more and more reports of. And another big issue is that you are so far out. That's one of the benefits of it, but if something is to happen, it can be difficult and it can be tough on your rig. The land, the BLM land, is often way off the beaten path. So it's really time consuming to get out there, and it can be really tough on your rig. There's actually a really good video by Happily Ever Hanks where they go and they camp on BLM land for the first time, and it is a long jaunt out there. I will link it in the description below, but it really gives you an idea, and it really is something I watched as someone who was new to this life, and I was like, I don't know, that's a little rough. It was more than I expected, and that doesn't even factor in hazardous terrain like torrential water and how that can affect areas that are low-lying and all that. Actually, Robin of Creativity RV recently did a video on a rally she tried to host on BLM land, and she ran into some issues with hazardous terrain due to the weather and also with erratic campers, and I will link that below as well. And finally, this is the most sensational of all, but it is one that gives me pause as a woman who travels. There have been multiple reports in especially the solo van life community, especially the female nomad community, of dangerous encounters on BLM land. Specifically of, you know, guys kind of casing out what they're doing, asking a lot of questions, you know, trying to lure them into, oh, I've got a shower back at my place, that sort of thing. And it's really creepy and unsettling. I mean, I get that people might be trying to be nice, But there have been some reports of women who've gone missing from BLM land that were van lifers, and it really makes you think. Actually, one prominent van lifer had a viral video that I happened to see about an encounter she had in the desert with a guy who was kind of saying, oh, you know, come back, take a shower. Not acting right though, and she caught the whole thing on camera. And I watched that, and it really, when combined with everything else, it makes me think that while BLM land sounds like a good idea, I'm not necessarily in a hurry to do it. Just between, you know, the risk of being run off by the locals, the risk of, you know, awful neighbors with no rural structure, the risk to my rig by going off-road, the hazardous potential conditions on the land because it isn't developed and weather does happen, and, you know, actual crimes against people that can happen out in isolation. It seems pretty dangerous to me. And I have to say that despite the low cost of staying on BLM land, the fact that it's, you know, basically free, it hasn't been attractive to me because there are all these deterrents. And of course, there's also other factors, the fact that there's no hookups. We're both working full time. You know, Justin in particular has a lot of webcam meetings, so he needs to be showered, he needs good internet. Needs to be presentable. We don't really have the best off-the-grid rig for long stays, so if you factor in all the time it takes to get out there and then all the time it takes to get back, it starts being not worth it for us. And, you know, in addition, all the stuff I talked about in the video doesn't help, and by all accounts, these things are getting worse, not better. But I don't have any direct experience. That's what I've gleaned just from reports from the community, you know, from the forums, from major YouTubers. If you camp on BLM land, am I out of line here? Is it really not so bad? Has it not gotten any better? Am I making a mountain out of a molehill? Or are these things really happening and there are ways to, you know, navigate it? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, it's been great talking to you as always. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.